Do you want to try again? Do you want to start over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Welcome, y'all.
Welcome to Book Witches with the Bee.
Hey.
I'm Wardrobe.
And I'm Colleen.
And we are your hosts for this book podcast, a podcast about books.
Pretty much any books.
Pretty much any books. If you have listened to our prior seasons, you'll know that we have been kind of in like the romance fantasy realm.
Mm-hmm.
We're changing that up with this season.
Oh, yeah, we are.
We are going to be talking about Blood Over Bright Haven.
Which we're excited about.
By M.L. Wang.
My brain was thinking ML, but I was like, I want to make sure
Yeah.
it's M.L. Wang. Yes. I would say this book is more like a political fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar. I would say I recently just read a Hunger Games book. I would say it's kind of in that Hunger Games-y realm.
Yes.
It's not dystopian necessarily. It's not in that realm and in that context, but
It's not in our world.
Correct. It is a like fantasy magical world, but it's set in like a Victorian magical world.
Kind of like steampunky.
Steampunky. If you've read Divine Rivals, which I don't think you have.
I have not.
We should do that for the podcast at
Okay.
some point. It's very good. But if you are someone who has read the book Divine Rivals, I would say it's similar. It's like typewriter magic. So it's like Victorian magic-y, so it's kind of our world, but really not.
But not, yeah.
Yeah, it's grounded in our world, but not ours.
But
at all.
not, yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought of the spell, like the magic system, to be really similar to coding.
It is very similar. It's
Yeah.
very much like mathematical and mechanical.
Yeah.
Which is really neat.
Super fun. There are going to be a lot of trigger warnings this season in terms of, so trigger warning for racism, sexism, sexual assault.
So there's a lot of things. Clearly.
And a lot of violence.
It is. This book is. It is a political commentary. So basically, all of the things that you could think of, it's probably here.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, it is very violent. It's very detailed.
Yes.
But it's not violence for just violence sake.
No, it's not gory.
No.
Also, a break in our previous pattern, there is no romance.
Not a single one. I knew there wasn't going to be, but I kind of was like waiting for there to maybe be one, and there definitely isn't. So if you're reading this, don't hope for one. It's definitely not there.
It's not a romance.
It's not the point at all.
No.
But I remember finishing it and being happy it didn't have one.
Me too.
That doesn't mean that there's not deep connections.
Mm-hmm.
There is very deep connections. It's just
Yes.
not like love connections.
Correct.
In this, so
Yeah. All right, so
We're excited.
with that, because of the structure of this book and kind of the flow of it, we're going to be reading, I think, probably in 3 chapter segments.
they're meaty chapters.
There's a lot going on there. So with that, let's get started with our chapter recap.
Woohoo!
Chapter summary.
I'm very excited.
All right. These chapters have names, so I'm going to read the names of the chapters.
Mhm.
A lot of them also have excerpts in the beginning, and similar to Fourth Wing, I will read the excerpts in the beginning as well.
Perfect.
Chapter 1, A Field of Flowers. No excerpts. So, we open on Tamil, a scout and one of 40 survivors of a tribe called the Kaldane, who live in the land of Quen. It is a cold and desolate winter scene, one where life has become scarce, and there is an unpredictable killer called Blight, capital B, that strikes at random at all living things, like plants, animals, people, everything. Tamil's family consists of his older sister, her husband, and their daughter. The rest of his family has been taken by Blight. Tamil and the remaining Quen are at the edge of a frozen lake that is on the outskirts of a large city called Tiran, a metropolitan city that is shielded from the blight and from the winter, fun fact, by a magical dome. It is the Kaldane's last hope to cross the lake and seek shelter within the city protected against blight. However, the crossing is the most dangerous part, as blight strikes exponentially more in this area. The Kaldane run across the lake, and one by one, every single one of them is struck down with blight, including Tamil's brother-in-law and then his sister. His sister manages to throw little Kara into Tamil's arms as the blight takes her and leaves Kara with a scar, but she's still alive. Mm-hmm. So basically, he makes it through the magical shield, and him and Kara are the only remaining Kaldane in existence anymore. And he passes out, so he's been running in sub-0 degrees. His lungs are about to give up. He just saw literally everyone he knows die. and he ran through ice that was shattering beneath his feet.
Yeah.
So he's like cut up and hurt, and Kara is obviously hurt from the blight, though she has survived. So he like passes out, and he is awoken by a Tiranish border guard. At first, they talk about throwing Tamil and Kara back out as they look too weak to work, but Tamil manages to scream, no, he can work. They then try to separate Kara from Tamil, but he lies and tells them that he's her father. It is apparently a Tiranish rule that they can't separate a parent from a child.
Yes.
Tamil and Kara are allowed to stay, and Tamil is determined to keep the Kaldane alive through himself and Kara. Which brings us to chapter 2. And I have an excerpt to read. So the excerpts at the beginning of each chapter are like religious text. So it kind of gives us an idea of Tiranish religion and the world that they live in.
And the religion is very important
to
this world.
It is. Okay, so all present watched in wonder as Stravos stood upon his crooked leg and raised the barrier from spell work, the like of which even Lord Prophet Leon had scarcely seen. One layer to guard from winter, one layer to guard from bitterest blight. And within this golden cradle, made by God's will and maintained by his mages, we set our nation of the chosen. The Tiracid Foundation, verse 356 of Tiran. Chapter 2, A Woman Wanting. We open some amount of years later on Sciona and Alba, two women sitting on a train in Tiran. They are Tiranish women, and Alba is Sciona's cousin, and they're heading to the Mgistry for Sciona's exam to become a mage, something no woman has ever been permitted or able to do. Sciona has a drive for education and breaking barriers. She's intelligent and believes that she could be the first ever female mage in the Mgistry in history, as does her mentor, Archmage Brigham. Alba discusses with Sciona about how she doesn't seem to care about anyone or anything other than her studies and ambitions, pointing out that she doesn't even remember the boy's name who baked her fresh scones that morning. Once they reach the hall, I think it's Leon's hall where she is doing the exam, we are introduced to the high mages or I think I got that wrong. We're introduced to the mages. And we are also introduced to a couple of people who are competing with Sciona for spots in the Mgistry, including Jaren Mordra, who is a high mage's son. Sciona and Alba sit through exam after exam of the other candidates, watching as they're given prompts to conduct spells with a machine called a spellograph, which is an invention that works like a computer for computing spells. We also learn of the Other Realm, a place that Tiran's gods gave their people access to in order to source their magic. So basically what's happening is they have this little like typewriter thing that's attached to a round mirror-shaped thing, I would assume.
It's like a mirrored screen. There's like is it Meet the Robinsons? I think Meet the Robinsons has something very similar to this. If you've ever seen that. It has this kind of like coil essentially, and then it projects in between it. Like it's like a projection of a screen.
Correct.
Yes.
And so basically what the spellograph does is you type up your spell, and then you have to type up the coordinates to source magic from the other realm to power your spell. And so basically Sciona is sitting there as like man after man is called forward to do their exams. They're given prompts by all of the archmages, and she's basically like explaining to her cousin Alba how like all of the stuff they're being asked is super simple and she could do it in her sleep, which I appreciate.
I love a confident woman. I really do.
She's a very confident woman.
She's intelligent and has worked really hard to be here. I do think she should be.
Yes, I agree. And then finally, when she's like about to fall asleep and she hasn't eaten all day, like she's like exhausted and nervous and anxious, they finally call her up to do her exam.
Oh man.
Which brings us to chapter 3 and our next excerpt. This, my 11th decree as Lord Prophet Leon's sole surviving disciple, pertains to the lines numbering 234, 235, and 301 in Leon's primary spell journal. My decree is that, henceforth, no mapping sequence of Leon's invention shall be altered in its replication, nor duplicated except in application for its intended purpose. which is the survey of God's bounty. For the prophet wrote no spell except according to Pharaoh's will. Therefore, while Leon's writings, which are the will of God, endure, Tiran shall endure. He who would alter the mirror of godhood invites calamity, for he does the work of devils. The Tiracid, Law, verse 13, 64 of Tiran. All right, chapter 3 is called Freynan the First. Sciona's last name is Freynan.
Freynan.
I should have mentioned. So she is called up, and basically, everyone is expecting her to fail. Mm-hmm. Except for Archmage Brigham.
Interestingly, yeah. He's like, oh, there's no way she's going to fail.
There's no way.
Yeah.
And so they ask her to do several different prompts where she, does them immediately with no hesitation, and she's performing really well. And then she comes to Archmage Duras, who does not seem to be very fond of the idea of Sciona doing so well.
You don't like ladies.
And so they do not. That is an understatement.
Correct.
And so here we go. I have a little excerpt. He turned sharp green eyes on her. Let's see if you're up to more than simple cutting and ignition spells. At 42, Duras was the youngest archmage in a century, and Sciona supposed she couldn't blame him for scorning her, or any mage who performed in his presence. The master conduit designer had either invented or improved half the devices in modern Tiran. Who were these youngsters to encroach on his hard-won territory? Basically, what he asks her to do is use matter from the other realm to create a, quote, incendiary device that only activates when thrown over 15 feet in the air. So basically, what he's asking her to do is something that's extremely complex that none of the other candidates have been asked to do.
And which probably can't do.
And yeah, which is reach into this fuzzy other realm that they don't know very much about, extract matter, and create a bomb that only activates above 15 feet in the air.
Which, making a bomb that only activates 15 feet in the air in this world alone is hard.
Yeah.
Let alone grabbing the matter and forcing it into an incendiary device.
Correct. So she manages, though, to do it, and she's like, what now? And then we get to the cauldron.
We have a lot of thoughts about cauldrons. If you have been on our previous episodes, you know.
You know.
Although I will say this cauldron was much easier.
This cauldron was a lot easier to picture.
Correct. It was very detailed.
So she did the really hard spell that Duras asked of her. Mm-hmm. And so the other archmages have a few more prompts for her, but they seem impressed. Yeah. And then Duras is like, hold on a second. I got another one for you because I don't like you, woman. And he basically is like, okay, so here's this cauldron. It's ginormous, very heavy. She has no idea what the dimensions are or what the actual weight is. And he's basically like, here you go, cast a levitation spell. Go. Let's see if you can actually do this. And she is looking at it, and she's like, okay, well, I could be really, really wrong about the weight, and that's going to be the thing that makes this hard. Mm-hmm. And she basically way overestimates the weight.
Correct.
And she pushes her little thing on the spellograph and sources too much energy, and it goes
through the roof.
Through the roof of this beautiful,
gorgeous
historical architectural building. Through the roof, and then slams back down. And she's like, oh. And then she's like, but I know, this is really important because this tells you a lot about Sciona as a character. She's like, well, now I know how much it weighs approximately because I can do the math backwards from this is how much it used, that's how high it flew.
Yeah, she's like, I got this, easy.
And Duras is basically like, no, it's over. You're done. And she's basically cuts him off and is like, no, let me. And then proceeds to do the levitation spell really well.
Yeah.
And then it comes down and she has this moment where she's really proud of herself. And then she realizes she is not allowed to go against direct orders from an archmage.
Until she is one, but she's not.
But she is not. And so basically she's like, I have disqualified myself. I have brought shame to myself. I have brought shame to every single female in Tiran, which she doesn't care so much about.
We'll get into that.
But don't worry. She's like, I've brought so much shame upon literally everyone and everything, and I'm the worst. And basically runs out of the room, runs into the bathroom. Her sweet cousin Alba, who has been extremely supportive of her,
incredibly,
follows her out, and she's like, it's okay, you don't have to be so hard on yourself because no woman has even made it this far, let alone will ever be a mage. Like, you're okay. And finally, the, like, receptionist comes in and she's like, oh, there you are. Archmage Bringham's been looking for you. And Sciona's, like, crying and she's like, I cannot be seen like this. She gathers herself up and she goes out, and Archmage Brigham is like, we did it. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, you passed the test. You did it. Everyone was so impressed with you. You're going to have your own lab. You're going to be able to work on this project that we have, which is an expansion of the shields that we don't know how to source enough energy to expand the shields, and you're going to be part of that research team because of your sourcing ability that they just saw in this exam. Like, it's going to be great. And then I have a small excerpt to read because this is very Sciona. That was lightning. Everything's fine. Okay, so Bringham's like, we did it. And she's like, yay. And he's like, indeed, I'll see you at work then, High Mage Freynan. On the train home, Alba chattered excitedly, but all Sciona could hear was Archmage Bringham's voice earnestly saying, High Mage Freynan. She clutched tight to the sound and echoed it to herself all the way home. High Mage Freynan, High Mage Freynan, High Mage Freynan. She saw the letters on the spine of a book, and beside them in gold, all the things she was going to be to this city. First woman of the High Mgistry, pioneer of the Freynan method, the woman who expanded the barrier. And that brings us to the end of chapter 3.
I kind of love her.
I do too. She's a very, very fun protagonist to have.
She's very complex.
She's super complex. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of our chapter recap.
Yes, there it is.
Yay! Oh, this book.
It's a wild ride, y'all. Yeah. So, yeah, I found this book originally because, if you are someone who does audiobooks, highly recommend you do this, but I do Libro.fm, and so this is like a local bookstore way to buy books. Sorry, excuse me. And I started using that instead of Audible. Sometimes you just have to use Audible. There's certain books that are only on there, but I try to not if I can. And the local bookstore that I support had this book as like a bookseller recommendation. It was also like a new book at the time, and the cover of this book might be my favorite cover ever. It is stunning.
I'll bring it out.
And it immediately drew me to this book. I know they say don't judge a book by its cover, but this cover should be judged, and it's gorgeous. It immediately caught my eye. Look at it. It's stunning. And I was like, I have to read this book. I read it in like a week, devoured it. Got real sad. It is, I knew going in it probably wasn't like a romance type novel, which is fine, I don't mind, but that is mostly what I read. And then suggested it for our book club with some of our friends in New York. Yes. I say our friends, I'm gonna say our friends. Mostly we're just friends.
They are our friends.
Mostly they're some of my friends. Because that book club doesn't do as much like romance or spicy or anything. And I was like, this book is good. And it really is. And so we were like, oh, we should do this for the podcast. So here we are.
Here we are.
It's so good.
It is so good. Like we said in the beginning of this episode, it is tough. And that's kind of, I think, why we wanted to do it.
Yes, so I think I mentioned this before, but it's been a little bit of time, so to give maybe a little bit of context of this for me. So my undergrad degree is in sociology, so like this is like a sociologist's dream, right? Like there's so much like social commentary and characters to show how that works and like how they interact. So the whole point of sociology, if you don't know, because I did not before I majored in it, is essentially, so psychology focuses on the individual and how their brain works, and sociology works on how they interact with other people. This book is my field. It's incredible. This is like gold mining for me.
Truly.
Also a book that this will be my only second reread of it because it is hard to read, and I purposely was like, I'm gonna hold off. I did not reread it for a book club. That is my minor. I told everyone, but I was I've read it, and I remember it had been about a year before we had done it. I was like, we're doing it for the podcast, and I cannot get myself to read this like more than 2 times within the last like 2 years.
Even before getting ready to read it for the podcast today, I was like, okay, here we go, because it's so good. But it is like a very it's not a happy book.
It's not a happy book, and for me personally, and I'm getting into this, it's incredibly convicting about a lot of the ways that I behave, which is the point of it, and it forces me, because I want to be someone that examines myself as in what I read, to examine how I behave and how I interact with people, and it makes me feel real bad about myself. So,
it is meant, I think it's definitely meant to provoke self-reflection.
Absolutely, and it does.
It really
does. It does
does.
it in a very, like, an incredibly well-written and, like, compelling way that it like, but also in, like, a very stark way where it forces you.
Yes.
Like, if you're going to read this book and finish this book, you are going to see what's happening.
Yeah.
It's not subtle, but it's well done.
It's
I don't know how to
very
explain
well
it.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. If there's any book in this that I suggest you read, I please beg that you read this.
Definitely do.
Especially just in general.
Yeah.
I think it will make you expand as a person.
I agree.
Anyhow, it's great. I'm so excited.
Yay. So let's dig into it then. I do think our section superlative segment still works for this book.
We've learned that these translate really well.
They translate really well.
Yeah, we're doing a couple of different books before this one that you'll see, I think, or maybe around the time frame. We're not certain, but we're doing a couple of different books, and we've learned as we've done those that
it works.
These work. Yeah.
It works. So let's go ahead and open up our section superlative.
Let's go.
All right, drama queen of this segment, obviously, Sciona.
It's definitely Sciona.
Yeah, she is like, her internal monologue is so, like,
for someone so logical, I think what I really like about her, because I definitely consider myself more on the logic side than emotion side, for someone so logical, she's incredibly emotional.
She is.
And I feel that deeply.
All of her thought processes, while extremely logical and methodical, are very closely tied to her emotions.
Correct.
And yeah, I feel that deeply too.
Yeah. Because again, I'd like to think I have a decent grip on my emotions. Some of that's therapy, some of it's being, older.
I don't have a great grip on my emotions. I know this. It's fine.
I like to think that I do. I don't always. But I do try to my ability. But like internally, definitely don't. Externally, I try really hard to like be more calm and have an element of ease. It just makes it simpler for people to interact with you. But it might be me because I'm kind of holding my mic like a thumbs up. I'll move that back.
Fine.
But yeah, she's incredibly like, which I cannot relate to something more than thinking you failed the test and running into a bathroom to
cry so no one can see you.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Just having a full meltdown in the college bathroom.
Right. But no one can see you, so that's why it's in a bathroom.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Relate to that deeply. Can't say I've ever did it I did wait until my bedroom because I lived on campus, so that was simpler, but like, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. The meltdown feels that.
Also, the internal monologue of being like, I'm so much better than everyone. I deserve this. I don't. College me would not have related at all.
No.
Where I am now.
Yeah.
Very much relate. Especially in the field that we're in.
Correct.
In payroll.
I would say in my job I have a confidence, but I don't necessarily think it's that I'm better than everyone. I think it's just like I have worked long enough in the field that I'm in that I'm very confident and very willing to be like, no, you're not telling me what to do. Yes. I'm going to explain this to you.
This whole thing of like, so like Sciona watching all of these like archmage, or all of these mage candidates, including Jaren Mordra, whose dad is an archmage, right?
Yeah.
He's not great.
No. Nepotism is real and alive.
Yeah.
Very much confronts that.
He's not great, and yet he like gets an easy pass. They give him easy questions.
Yeah.
And she is sitting there and she's like, this is the easiest thing, and he's not even doing it well.
Yeah.
I feel that so deeply. So it sounds really arrogant, but payroll is an interesting industry to be in.
I get from clearly we're people that care deeply about our jobs and how it affects people, and I think Sciona is kind of coming from a place. She does want to help people.
She does want to help people. It's kind of secondary to her need. She cares very deeply about the work that she's doing, and she does have to remind herself to connect it to how it's helping people often.
Correct.
But she does.
She does.
Yeah.
So this is where the complexities of her comes in that, like, we can get into a little more later. But she is she is a full person.
Yeah.
She is very dramatic.
Drama queen of the segment.
She
to
is the
bring
drama
us back
queen
to where we are.
segment.
She is the drama queen of the segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We can move on to the next
Let's
one.
move on to the next. Craziest thing to happen.
100%
The cauldron.
Oh, I was gonna be like the first chapter.
Oh, the first chapter. I forgot the first chapter even happened. Man, that first chapter is so traumatic.
I forgot it happened. So, most of the books that we've covered, I have read multiple times. This, again, like I said, is only the second time I read this book. And so I purposely have decided that I'm only going to read because for my mental health purposes, read up until we're recording and keep it to that. And I think it'll be easier. It's almost like it's a fresh look because it's been a little bit. Completely forgot that this book opens with mass death.
Yeah, mass death. I didn't touch upon it in the chapter recap, but it's a very gruesome death.
Correct. They literally unravel.
Yes.
So they describe it like a ribbon. For me, this is a very easy thing to picture.
It is.
But
horrifyingly easy.
It's like taking the top of, probably because it's been like kind of like goofier movies, but this isn't goofy. It's basically like taking someone and just going like this.
Yeah.
And they unravel in ribbons and all of the blood on their body goes boop.
Yeah.
And it expels itself.
Yes. Flowers on the Snow, the first name of the chapter 1 is because of the blight hitting them and unspooling them and the flower of blood that comes on the snow.
That comes onto it, yes.
Yeah.
The flower is the pattern of blood.
Yes.
It's like oddly, this is a wild thing to say, but it's like kind of grotesquely beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think things can be that way because in my mind, like ribbons are flowy and beautiful and gorgeous, but it's like skin. Right?
It's skin. It's skin being stripped away from the muscles and the teeth and the bones. And all
that like
stuff.
skin's being taken and everything else is just being. It's like.
Yeah.
It's like compressed explosion ribbon.
And it happens fast, but not that fast.
No, it's an incredibly horrific death.
Yeah.
It is not like a instantaneous. You don't feel pain. Like they're
screaming.
They're feeling themselves. I can't imagine the concept of feeling myself unravel.
Me neither.
That sounds
awful.
Horrific. So to me, that is honestly of this book one of the most grotesque.
It is grotesque.
Most shocking things
to
happen.
It's the wildest thing.
It's also wild, and I love it. Wild for an opening of a book.
Yeah. Really sets the tone. Also, I think what makes it even crazier is that so that happens, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the only 2 people of this tribe left alive, right? And then you cut to Sciona, and it's like, you don't know where in time. I gauged when I read it that it was some amount of years later.
Yeah.
Completely no mention of this character who just went through this horrific.
It's such a cut.
Yeah.
It's clearly introducing the main characters.
It's very clearly a prologue too.
Correct. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely crazy.
It is not the way that I would think to put a story together, but I like the way that it's put together, if that makes sense.
It does make sense.
It's kind of in the way that they're don't do this thing. They did it, and I love it. Mm-hmm. I like the way that it's done.
I do too. I think as we get deeper into the book too, coming back to talk about this and how it puts everything in context.
Correct, yes. There's a lot, this is not a lot of this book seems... Throwaway isn't the right word, but a lot of everything that happens in this book is very intentional, and you don't know or notice that until the end. Yeah, everything is very connected. Even the way the characters interact and talk and handle things is very connected.
It is. It's incredible.
Oh,
it's so good.
It's incredible. Yeah. Clearly, we love this.
Yeah, we clearly
we're very excited. Emma Wang, we love you.
Yes, we love you.
If you see this, which I hope you do.
I hope so too.
Actually, you're an incredible writer.
Just stunning. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
It is very stark prose.
Yeah.
I'm using my literary words.
Good job.
I have a minor, technically, in literature, so.
Alrighty. Okay, do we want to add any superlatives?
I mean, we could probably think of a social commentary one at some point.
We should, but we don't have the context yet.
So I think we can get there eventually. Okay. So.
Alright. Most sexist person.
Oh my gosh.
All of them.
Literally
all of them.
Correct. Sexist or racist, which is again all of them.
Also all of them.
Yeah, which we'll get into. We don't get into the racism part quite as much in this section, but it definitely slaps you in the face.
It does.
It is not subtle.
Nope. So we do. So I also kind of brushed over it. So when Tom, I guess this is the deep dive discussion. I'll save it. I'll save the racism for the deep dive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Colleen's Corner?
We absolutely can.
Colleen's Corner!
It's me. Okay.
I just, whenever you say that, I think of Anti-Hero.
Yep. This is my soapbox corner. Okay, so what I am going to start with, because for me this is probably the most interesting concept of this book, and we get introduced to this concept incredibly early, and it carries on through, is the concept not only of feminism, because feminism is clearly a big theme in this book. That is what Sciona is striving for. It's the concept of feminism, which maybe I should define. Okay, so the concept of feminism has not been defined in an incredible way, especially in American culture. I think there has been multiple waves. I think we're kind of still in third wave, but anyhow, or fourth wave. Some people consider us in fourth wave. That's a whole thing. If you would like to learn more, please do deeper research than this.
Yes.
But typically the concept that people don't like about feminism is considered third wave feminism. That's the one that tends to rub people the wrong way.
Is that like the man-hating?
Yes, that's the man-eater, man-hating concept. And like sometimes it definitely was. For certain people it definitely is.
Yes. I mean, hey, sometimes I feel it too.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you live in sexism long enough, it is hard not to feel a little bit of hatred. It's similar, but I'm assuming of living in racism. I can only have, again, the concept of sexism. But by definition, the concept of feminism is a woman, regardless of what definition you view of that, a woman's right to do what she wants. Which is a weird way to put it.
It's so simple.
Why do we have fireworks?
What is happening?
What she wants is maybe not the right word, but it's like, I think a lot of people assume it's like, well, women want to be in the boardroom or they want to do these things. That's not what it means. It's a woman's right to be able to even be like a stay-at-home mom, but still feel valued, and like a stay-at-home mother has the same exact value as someone in a boardroom. Yeah. It is the right for a woman to make her own decisions, to do the things that she wants for herself. That's it. That is literally it. That it's not like a third wave feminism tends to be more of the like girl boss, work hard, has to fight, which none of that is wrong. We're both working professionals.
We are. Would I like to be a stay-at-home mother? Yes.
I actually don't want to be one.
I would love to be one, even if it's just for my new puppy. Stay-at-home dog mom? Yes. Stay-at-home child mom? Also yes.
Yes. I think I would be probably more along the lines of like, I don't want to have to work for money, but I would love to volunteer and actively do things that to me felt fulfilling. Like, not that my job isn't, but I think there's an element of there's certain things that I think would be more fulfilling for me, but they're not monetarily fulfilling. Yeah. They don't give me the money that I need to survive. So I think if I didn't actively work, I would probably do something along those lines. But yeah, again, it is a woman's right to do. So I think that definition gets really muddied, particularly so I grew up in Oklahoma, and so particularly in very conservative context, because again, it has been a word that has been very vilified and demonized, and I don't necessarily think, and I understand why, but I would like to state that up front that is the definition that we are using going into this, because I think definition is a big thing that gets mixed and lost in context.
Yeah, really important to set the expectations.
Correct. So the next text, this is my sociology soapbox. Okay, so I actually did a lot of, again, I am a feminist. I have called myself a feminist for a long time because I've been given a lot of grief for that over the years. I still stand by it. People, if you know me, this comes to a shock to literally no one in my life. But the next word we're going to talk about is intersectional feminism. Which is, in theory, if you are a feminist, the way that you should view feminism. So feminism, in theory, as we said, is a woman's right to do things. The issue with that is because we do live in a patriarchal society, patriarchal powers that be have done everything in their power to multiple people to maintain their ways. So typically, at least in the context that I am used to in Western context, we're going to put this into Western context because I think this book is definitely from like a Western perspective. So part of the patriarchal society concept was not only suppressing women and their rights. Fun fact, women could not open up a bank account until like the 1970s, just to give some context. Yeah. Okay, we could vote before we could open a bank account. Without our husband's or father's permission.
Still can't get my tubes tied without my husband's permission, so there's that.
Yeah, or the concept of my future husband, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
I don't even have a future husband. I don't necessarily want my tubes tied, but I couldn't even if I wanted to. My mythical future husband may or may not want to have children.
Yeah.
Anywho, so there's a lot of things that clearly women cannot control in their lives now, but we've made significant progress since then. But one of the other things that also came with that was suppressing people that weren't like them. So, white people, including white women, because they were trying to maintain some sort of power in a society where they did not have any, suppressed other racial groups, male or female, across the board. So a lot of the time, like the suffragette feminist leaders that we think of, like particularly Susan B. Anthony, incredible for women, incredibly racist, and actively tried to push Black women in particular out of the conversations at the time about allowing women to vote, because they said which I understand their thought concepts, still not a good thing to do, but they were like, we can only handle fighting racism or women's rights
one
to
at
vote
a time,
one at a time. And from a patriarchal standpoint, they're probably not wrong, but that still does not rightfully give them the right to push out people that were actively fighting for rights.
For the same cause.
Correct.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, anyhow, intersectional feminism, this is where it comes in. So I think women who, and I think Sciona is really bad at this concept.
She is.
And this is brought up literally in the second chapter, where Alba's like, you don't care about other, she's honestly kind of bad at even feminism.
She is very
she's
bad
not even
at
close to intersectional. She doesn't even got the feminism part.
Yeah. She approaches feminism from an extremely patriarchy-informed viewpoint.
Correct. Which is really common, and I think that's where a lot of even men see it from. Of like, women can't fight the patriarchy by being the patriarchy.
Correct.
That is not how it works.
That does not help.
But there's a concept of, well, you maybe can't, but I can, and sometimes if you navigate it right, which interestingly for Sciona, it works for her. And this is not saying that you can't have, like, male traits. Lord knows I do.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not saying that you can't enjoy male things or do those types of things. Femininity is a spectrum.
It's a spectrum, yes.
Correct. Yeah. So there's not, like, one way to be a woman. There are multiple ways. But I think, there is patriarchy. And there is a concept of patriarchy. And, like, engaging in, like, belittling other people or putting other people down in that patriarchal system and stepping on others and using others to get what you want, very much is feeding into that concept, and particularly white women, calling you out. We're real bad at that because we may not have a lot of privileges, but we do have white privilege. It's the only one we got. We cling on to that so hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we should, I am putting myself in this. I know I do. I'm not taking myself out of this conversation by any means. I try actively not to.
You do.
I try really hard.
Very hard.
But that does not mean that I am exempt at all. I am a white woman. I know there is a particular privilege that comes to that I don't have to deal with that other people do. So,
I think I just want to add a layer to this.
Absolutely.
Because my family, while I did not grow up wealthy. My family did become pretty well off when I was in, like, high school. And so from my viewpoint, when I'm looking at it, I don't really remember the times that we struggled for stuff. It was there. It was definitely there. My parents struggled. They worked really hard. They're both occupational therapists, so they are skilled workers, and they get paid a lot. And they're also, my dad's also a businessman. Yeah. So, like, another layer to the intersectionality is that, like, classism.
Lord have mercy.
huge thing.
Which is a part of patriarchy.
It is a part of patriarchy. So, like, as a woman of color, although I am Indian and we face racism in a really different way from a lot of other people of color, I also always try to, like, approach every situation from, like, I have privilege too. I have had a lot, from a class point, I've had a lot of privilege. My family took us on trips around the world when I was in high school onwards. As soon as they could afford it, they were like, we're going to go to Europe, we're going to go to India, we're going to, go and have these family trips and see the world and be, like, cultured and all of that stuff. Yeah. I studied abroad in Scotland, and then I went to Oxford.
Yeah.
So, like, I think adding the classism aspect of that is really important as well.
And in this book,
especially.
In particular. So I will say I'm probably on the opposite end of that spectrum. I love my family. We are probably a lot better off now, like within the last 5 years. I grew up, not that this is a negative, but I grew up in a very blue collar family. My dad does machining. Love you, Dad, if you're watching this. We love you.
You're great.
But I will state something that my family was good at and understood, interestingly, definitely not how they were brought up, but they understood this and wanted this concept of wanting to be cultured in a way that we could figure it out. So we couldn't afford to travel, but we had art museums and cultural exhibits and those natures, that stuff of that nature, not necessarily near us because we grew up pretty rural, grew up about 2 hours from anything normal, I would say, maybe for most people, but they actively tried. We always once a year went and looked at plants and went to the art museum, and my parents loved jazz. That was my parents' favorite music genre, and we engaged with jazz things and just anyhow. So definitely did not grow up with the class privilege by any means, but I had the white privilege, so that worked out for me. But I think everyone has an element of privilege somewhere. You just kind of have to be aware of what it is.
You have to be aware,
and learn to navigate those.
That is that is the importance of intersectionality. Whereas if you're fighting for feminism, if you're fighting for women to have the right to do what they want to do, you also have to take into context that there's so many different layers of inequality in a power structure that you have to take into account. You can't just be like, well, this is my experience, so this is going to work for everyone.
This is where the wants to do part of it comes into play, because it's well, I want to do this thing, but if that harms other people, that's where the wants to do thing. And I need to look up the actual definition, but that was the best definition I could think of, and that's how I view it, because we're modern people. And we're also Americans. I think it's a very American definition.
It's very
feminism.
It's like feminism is at its core is the right for women to do
to make their own decisions.
Yes.
I think decisions is maybe a better way to put it. To make decisions for themselves, whether it's if they want to work, if they want to stay home, how they handle their own bodies. I know that's a loaded word. We're not going to get into that. That's not the point of this, and I don't think we should. No. But that's not in this book. But it's a way to control.
To be in control of your life, basically.
There have been, because women have not had this control. No. They have not been allowed to say no about things for. People always make jokes about I would love to live in the past, and I was kind of one of these people. I loved the 1920s. I still do. I love the concept of the glitz and the glam. I loved The Great Gatsby. I could not live in the 1920s. I would have burnt out and lived the life of Zelda Fitzgerald. If you know anything about her, that probably would have been me in my life. I'm not nearly as Southern Belle as her, but in that realm, right?
Yeah, so. Even for me, so the context of, excuse me, I'm Indian. Indian families are so conservative. Yeah. I was really, again, privileged. I was very privileged in that, yes, thumbs up. Privilege can be good if you use it for good.
Correct. You can love that.
Yeah. So I was really privileged in that, my, it likes that word.
Yeah, privilege is a thought that's wildly interesting.
It's pretty funny. My mother and father, although they did have a lot of the conservative stuff, in terms of how I dressed or stuff like that, nothing low cut ever, nothing short, especially when Indian people were around. They didn't care as much when I was around my school friends, but they cared a lot more when there were Indian people around.
But I feel it's also safety because
it is
underage.
Very much a safety thing.
Yeah,
which
you're
I
understand. You're an underage person.
Now, as a child, did not understand it.
Same.
But they, in an Indian context, women don't drink.
Yeah.
Women get married young and have kids. I'm 33. 30. Oh my god, I almost said 33. Kill me. I'm 32.
Gonna hold on, you're pretty good there, don't worry.
I'm 32. I got married at 30. I had been with my husband for 6 years, so we could have gotten married earlier. But like, for context, I went to India when I was 25. I told you this story. Went to India when I was 25.
I love this story.
I guess I wasn't 25. I was like 23, I think. And I was still very single. And we were meeting with my dad's uncle for dinner and his family. And he was like, oh, so she's not like, dating anyone. And my dad was like, no. And he was like, I have a lot of really good boys that I could line up for her. Like, she'll meet them, she could get married. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, no, I only want to marry an American guy because I'm dead set against this random ass uncle, grandpa setting me up. If my parents had tried to set me up with someone, I trust their judgment. I would have been like, yes, I'll go on a date with this person.
Because you know them and they care for you.
Exactly.
In a different way than maybe this uncle.
Correct.
You don't know as well. Yes.
This uncle just really wanted me to not be single anymore.
I mean, I appreciate the hustle. Love that for him.
So he goes, yeah, no, these are American guys. And then he goes, how old is she? And I was like, and my dad's like, oh, she's 22. 23? Orja, yeah, they're all American, they're all great. And I look at him dead in the eyes. And I was like, no, I only want to marry a white American person. And then I get up and walk away from the table. And behind me, I like look back and my grandpa, uncle, I don't know what to call him, my great uncle, there we go. My great uncle is looking at my dad and going, really? And my dad just looks at me and goes, yeah. And then gets up and walks to join me. And I was like, thank you for supporting me in that. Because, like, that was not a criteria for me. I just really wanted to shut him up. But, like, that is the norm there, where it's like, oh, these young people don't know anything. Especially this young woman who, like, talks a lot and is, whatever.
I grew up in a southern, very conservative area, religiously conservative area. I'm still a religious person. But feminism has always been, like, it's a word that I have learned very quickly not to even bring up in conversation. I have learned, and I think sometimes it's a good thing. Like, if that is a word that upsets people to the point that it's, like, they won't hear.
Did you get into yelling matches?
Yeah. I had to learn, and Lord did I learn, that the word for some people, because, again, they have a different definition than I was trying to explain, that I had to be like, well, it was a lot of it, like, well, why?
Yeah.
I got to a lot of, well, why do you think this? Because, again, such an old maid. I'm not even a spinster. I'm past spinsterhood at this point from where I grew up. Like, a good chunk of people that I knew, and I don't think it's negative, got married at, like, 18.
Yeah.
Like, that was very common where I was from. Part of it was because a lot of them didn't want to leave the area that I grew up in. It was very rural. You've known everyone that you had the option of marrying from, like, the age of 5. You knew who you were going to marry.
Yeah.
Like, you knew your options. And that's great. And I knew that wasn't the life that I wanted to live. I'm almost 30. I've just turned 29. I know a lot of women, in particular, they hit 30, especially if they're single. And I am going to work really hard to not do this because they, like, spiral. Yeah. I would say 30 is the age for St. Louis area. It was about 25 where I was from, so I avoided the 25. Gonna avoid the 30.
You can do it.
That's gonna be fun. I think that's fine. I think aging is a gift and a present that not everyone is allowed to have, and I am so grateful that it is something that I get to do. That aging for me is such an exciting and joyous thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. I hate it.
It is not for most people, and I'm aware of that. But I truly look at it as a privilege. I know so many people that don't get. There's so many people that have the outlook of they're lucky if they wake up the next day. And I have the privilege of getting old. So I really enjoy that.
I'm very happy that you do.
So it's exciting for me. Anyhow, so we are going to use the term feminism.
Yeah, bringing it back.
We are going to use that term, and we're going to use the definition of, I think maybe a better definition is allowing women to make their own choices. Yeah. Because... And, like, I understand, like, if you're married, there is an element of taking your partner into account, regardless if it's a male or female. Regardless, whoever your partner or your life person that you choose to spend your life with.
It's a partnership.
Of course you're going to take them into account but it doesn't mean that you have to defer to their needs.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a puppy because I really needed one. Anyways, decisions should be made. You know, feminism is about being able to still ultimately have the choice.
Correct.
To make the decision.
Because often women either had their husband, which was the only option. You could only have a husband. Their husband or their father making the decisions. Correct. For them. And
sometimes the brother, depending.
Yeah, if the dad died, you got the brother.
You have the brother.
Correct. Yes. So anyhow, that is important and I think particularly intersectional, which is the point of this book. This book is definitely analyzing feminism and particularly white feminism.
Yeah.
And how it interacts with the larger world. So I really just wanted to upfront talk about that.
I love that.
Make you aware of it. If it's something that makes you uncomfortable, you really don't have to continue listening. We hope you do.
We hope you do too.
I think you'll learn a lot.
I think so too. It's also like, this is a really low stakes way to educate yourself about it.
Also, if you have questions, please ask. We would love to explain.
Exactly.
We would love to educate. I love educating. Genuinely, I really do.
Please do ask.
I've had a lot of conversations with people about this, and I genuinely love talking.
I promise not to get into a yelling match with you. I was only 23. I'm 32 now.
Yeah, it's almost 10 years later.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, I was a raging, not so nice person at like 19, which I do think Sciona is, well, I said 42, so she's over the age of 40.
Is she?
Well, I mean, if 42 was the age of that guy and he was the youngest, and she's not stating to be the youngest.
She's not stating to be the youngest.
She should definitely be over this by now. I'm gonna be so honest. She definitely should be more aware than she is.
I thought she was like 20-something.
She acts like a 23-year-old.
She does. Okay, so deep dive?
Deep dive.
Deep dive. Hey.
Which we've done a lot of.
We have done a lot. One thing I wanted to dive into the racism aspect of all of this.
I'm gonna let you roll with that.
Thank you. I will state again, as an Indian person of color, I do not face the same type of racism that a lot of other people of color do. Mm-hmm. I have faced misplaced racism when people think that I'm from like Pakistan or that I'm a Muslim or something like that.
You said they also think you're Hispanic sometimes, correct?
Sometimes people think I'm Hispanic, yes. Mm-hmm. I think I look really Indian.
You do. I think you could also look native Hispanic.
Yes.
Which I think is where that comes in.
I can see that.
Not the colonized version, but like a native Hispanic person.
I can see that. Either way, like, particularly after 9/11, I will state this, when it comes to Pakistan and India, we're the same people. We have different religions. Mm-hmm. Literally same people. All of our boundaries were arbitrarily constructed by the British Empire.
Thanks, England.
Yeah, thanks, England.
Wow.
And then, broken apart, again, arbitrarily by people who wanted to remain in power and keep the money and, like, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. The whole conflict between our two countries is completely made up. I'm not saying that horrors weren't committed on both sides. Mm-hmm. I'm not discounting any of that. I'm saying the conflict
is manufactured.
Yes. So I'm not saying that I'm offended by people mistaking me for a Muslim person. I am Hindu. What I'm saying is I have had people mistake me for someone from the Middle East and be like, go back to your country after 9/11, and me be like, I mean, I don't even know, like, this is my country. I don't know what you mean by that. Yeah. But okay. Most of the racist comments I get are like, oh, are your parents okay with that you're, dating a white guy? Or like, oh, are you a doctor? Or sometimes, oh, does your family own a 7-Eleven? Those kinds of things. Which is it's not harmful. It's very comical.
I'm so sorry. I know you tell me these things.
It's really funny.
You've told me multiple times. All of this would never cross my mind to think or ask. I know
it depends on what context you know about Indian people.
Yeah, that's fair. I will state that is one of the pluses of coming from a really rural area. I pretty much had zero concepts of people from India, so I didn't even know what racist questions to ask.
Again, the racist questions are not. Every once in a while, I'll get something about the Kama Sutra, which I hate deeply. Please don't talk to me about our sex book. I don't enjoy that. It's none of your business. That's a personal thing. Anywho. I'll say it again. None of this is harmful.
I mean, it definitely is.
It's not maliciously harmful. It's like harmful in that like your view of who I am is just based on wild. India's also a very big country. There's a lot of Indians out there.
Correct. There were different regional characteristics.
Yes.
That are very.
It's yeah. So like it's like it makes me irritated or angry. Yeah. I very rarely get actually angry. It's mostly just like, oh man, you know, like.
Speaking of which, I did see a really funny stand-up thing from an Indian person that I need to find and
send
to you.
Send it to me.
Because it was not 7-Eleven related, but it was like in that realm.
Yeah.
It was very funny.
Please send it to me.
So I'll find it and send it to you.
However, I do think that there is a little bit of, first of all, Bollywood is propaganda. Bollywood propaganda against the British Empire is hilarious. They make the British people so evil, and I'm not saying that it's made up because I do believe that there were British people that were that evil.
Yeah, I love that.
Very much so, but it's like so heavy-handed. It's so funny.
I love Bollywood. You know this. One of the first things we bonded over was my love of particularly like Bollywood music videos.
Yeah, no, the best, the absolute best. But there is that little bit of like a context that I'm familiar with, which so Tamil like loses literally every single person in his life, except for his niece, who he knows he has to claim as his daughter.
Yeah.
He like makes it across the threshold, and they're basically like, oh, it's one of those Quens. It's the Africa thing.
It is the concept of immigration we know is complicated because and in an American context, typically the reason that we allow visas is because you can contribute to our economy.
Exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, it's one of those Quen. Quen is the name of the land, not the tribe. He's Kaldane.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Kaldane. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm very sorry. And they say maybe we should just throw him back out. He doesn't look strong enough to work.
Yeah.
He has just crossed over this horrific lake, and the first thing they say is, let's just throw him back out. He's too weak to work.
Well, also, like, they're also assuming he is not even smart enough to do anything besides manual labor.
Correct.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of
camp,
context.
Yeah. So when he, like, screams, no, she's my daughter, do not separate us, I can work, I promise. They're like, okay, well, have fun in the camp, you know, like, have fun trying to feed her, like, good luck with that. And, like, in his mind, he's like, do they not even know what we just went through? That doesn't... Yes, we're alive. Yeah. We're going to survive. We're not out there anymore.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like, so there's just like this whole big context of like, they have zero understanding of the depth and complexity of human emotion that exists in this person.
Yeah.
Because he is so other to them, does not even matter. Is not even a thing.
Correct.
And yeah, and then we find out that, so like the Quen, land is like this desolate place, everyone's dying from the blight, and we don't know anything about other tribes that are out there.
No.
We just know that they haven't seen any other tribesmen, like from other tribes.
Correct. They are native persons.
Yes. Yeah. And so he like fights for his life to get him and the sole other survivor of his culture across the border. Mm-hmm. And they knew that once they got there, manual labor is what they were going to do.
That was the requirement.
Yeah, that was the requirement.
All they were pretty much allowed to do.
Yeah.
That was the rule.
And so we don't get any more context of that, but I did want to touch upon, like, because we then shift focus severely and harshly directly to the patriarchy and feminism.
Which is intertwined with racism.
It is.
That's the complicated part of it. Because they're all, as we talked about, they're all a product of the patriarchal society that is pushing down those that they deem lesser, just to varying degrees.
Yeah. And then, so, like, but we don't hear any more about, like, Tamil. And we do know that they call, so this is where I was saying it's like Africa, they call the people who have crossed over from the Quen lands. They just call them the Quen. They don't differentiate between the tribes.
It's the Quen or the Quenlands.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, people will say, oh, they're African, right? When they're talking about people from Africa. But
Africa's so big.
Africa's a continent.
It's so big.
It's not a country.
It is not a... It is... They are not... Yes. They
Right?
Are not all
it's like the same thing. Like, it's they have extremely different cultures, cuisines, languages,
Correct.
religions. Like, they are different people.
They have different colonizers.
Yeah, they have different colonizers.
So they have different cultural contexts because of that.
Exactly. So it's like, but that's just like very secondary to the focus on the feminism there. But like, I just thought that it was really important because that is going to come back
real hard.
so hard.
The stories, I think it's very apparent that these stories are supposed to intertwine eventually, and their journeys very much are entangled within each other.
Very entangled, yeah.
Yeah, racism. I'm gonna let you rock and roll with that.
That's fine. We can keep going. I do think that the way that she wrote that is so, and please, if you're out there, please do comment and tell us what you think about it, if you've read it, how you felt about the representation of that. It did feel it felt very realistic in terms of the way that they view these people coming in from outside. Tiran is, in their eyes, the blessed land. Right? Like,
to the Tiran.
They're the chosen ones, they're the blessed ones. The people from Quen are other, they're lower than them.
Well, they weren't given the...
They weren't blessed. They weren't given the knowledge and the magic and the means to protect themselves from the blight.
Well, they weren't given the salvation from their religion.
Yeah.
And they are not allowed into their religion.
This is the why we were saying it's from a very Western perspective. It's Christianity.
It is. It's very much a Christian context in the way that Christianity has been warped and manipulated and used to control. We'll also state I am a Christian.
Yes. I am a Christian person. I'm also not saying that Christianity is evil at its base or like anything like that.
No, it's been manipulated into
highly manipulated.
If you want a socialist, free, whatever person, look at the concept of Jesus in his time was definitely that person.
I agree.
So hardcore. He was very much in that concept, but it has definitely been warped in a very Americanized Western context. Like even like European Christianity is very vastly different from American Christianity.
Even and I say this like being very not Christian myself, but I've read literature, I've been around a lot of people who do like follow Christianity, different sects and whatever, you know. But like the excerpts at the beginning are verses from their Bible.
Correct. It is set up in a similar context of, I'm assuming this person who wrote this book probably at least grew up Christian or had some very directly connected elements to Christianity, or at least probably has been harmed by it, judging by the way that they wrote it.
Very possible.
Very much so.
Because I will say, like, I have not read the Bible, but I have, as part of literature, I have read excerpts.
It's very heavy in a lot of
literature. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, the Bible is not, the language that they use about themselves in their scripture in this book is very overtly, blatantly we're the chosen ones and everyone else is other type of thing.
Correct.
And the Bible isn't very, like, at least what I have read of it, it's not that way.
And there's different interpretations.
Yes.
And we don't need to get into all of that.
Interpretations, but the words themselves, we're not. But the words themselves are not like,
yes, it is not blatantly written in a way that we are the only...
Yes.
That, like, this direct area is the only one that is allowed to be saved.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That is not how it is written.
No, it's up to interpretation.
This book
very much.
Very much is. And it very much justifies and reinforces their concept of the Queen, which, fun fact, are just redheads.
They are. They're just redheads.
I think one of the things that really cracks me up, like, I will state this, there's not a lot to be lighthearted about in these books.
No,
we were talking about this beforehand. But the fact that they're, you know how we talked about how like Hybern is just Irish?
Yeah,
they're
just Irish.
They're just Celtic.
Yeah,
I think they're probably maybe more like a Scottish.
You're right, because they have the clans, so they have the
I think
tribes.
it's a very like because Scotland and there's some Celtic tribes in
Yeah.
recently. Fun fact: found some Celtic British. One of the first Celtic British artifacts in England recently.
Wow.
I love archaeology.
I don't know what that noise was, but wow.
If there is a dream job for me, it is to be an archaeologist. I am just not in a financial state.
Like Indiana Jones?
Yeah, but better. Less racist.
Yeah. Oh God. But yeah.
But yes. No, like truly I love studying historical things and digging into them. It's just so exciting. But yeah, the Celtic people, they're definitely very much like, honestly, what I'm picturing this as, and that may be the concept of what this writer is coming from to a degree, of like the Tirish is England.
Yeah.
And like the Normandy English, traditional English concept, and the Celts are, the wild madmen or whatever. And that was very much how Celtic tribes were viewed. And there's a reason that they're viewed the way that they are still, to be honest. So anyhow, I think it's super interesting. But also just when you're picturing these characters in your head,
they're all redheads.
Pictured fair-skinned, fiery redheads. Like orange. Like
Brave.
Brave or like Ed Sheeran.
Like Ed Sheeran.
They're all honestly when I read Tom, I pictured him as like either Rupert Grint or Ed Sheeran. I actually kind of more of like a Rupert Grint. If just so I know most people have probably only seen Rupert Grint from Harry Potter, but I saw him as not as Poirot, but I saw a Poirot like concept and he played a character that was not Ron Weasley.
Which one?
It has it's like the ABC Murders or something. It's a British show.
I'll have to watch it.
Him and that is.
I love Rupert Grint.
We've talked about this.
Rupert Grint, we love you.
Rupert Grint, we do love you.
We love you.
And so, we are both people who enjoy reading. Harry Potter is definitely something that we like. That's not a surprise. And
it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. If you're someone who likes reading, I'm sure you get it. But I was watching an interview with Daniel Radcliffe, who was talking about Rupert Grint, and he was like, he has this like swagger that women love, and I don't think you get to see that
as Ron
because Ron isn't that way.
No.
Rupert Grint in real life is Bill Weasley.
Yes. Yes.
Because I saw him in this. I'll find it because it has oh my gosh, what is his name? John. It's not McAvoy. What is his name?
Oh, James McAvoy.
No, John Malkovich.
Oh.
John Malkovich is Poirot.
Oh my god.
Which is such a wild choice.
That is wild.
I'm fairly certain that's who it is. It could also be Kenneth Branagh, which I know those are not the same people, but I want to say it's the ABC murder. It's based off of like the Poirot concept.
Yeah.
But Rupert Grint has the swagger. He's in this like old timey, and I had never really understood it until I saw him in this movie, and I was like, I have a huge crush on Rupert Grint.
I have always had a huge crush on him, even in his Ron Weasley days.
That's fair.
I also had a huge crush on Ron Weasley, so.
Okay, so no, I was a Bill girly.
That's fair.
Why can I not think of the actor that plays Bill off the top of my head?
Dude,
he's also in the movie called About Time, which is
one
of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Why can I not think of he's a second generation actor?
Yeah, his dad played Mad-Eye Moody.
Yeah. Why can I not think of him?
Skelland?
Is it a Skarsgård? I thought that was the Skarsgård. Maybe I'm thinking of the Skarsgård boys.
No, you might be, but also.
You can look up About Time. That'll probably be easier.
Yeah.
What is his name?
His name.
My brain's thinking something, but I think it's just because he is
Tim Gleason.
So he's a Domhnall Gleeson.
Oh, Domhnall Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson. Honestly, if there was someone to play Domhnall in a movie for doing casting, Domhnall Gleeson would be the perfect casting.
Correct. Right here.
Domhnall Gleeson, I know you will never see this.
But if you do, we love you.
I don't care. If I can meet you, I will highlight of my life. I love everything that you've been in. I went through a big phase. Truly, you were an incredible actor. He also played, was it Christopher Robin in the Winnie the Pooh adaptation? I'm pretty certain.
Oh, was it?
He did a really good job as Christopher Robin. I'm fairly certain, like the modern one that they did, where like when he's he's an adult, and
but I think
Winnie the Pooh comes back in his life. Domhnall Gleeson, you bring so much comfort.
Yeah, you are a very comforting actor.
Even in movies that are not comforting. Like About Time is not a comforting movie.
It is not comforting. But you are comforting.
Correct.
Yeah.
Anywho, so picture Rupert Grint Donald Gleason.
Yes.
And Ed Sheeran. That is what the Quinn they are. They're very, like, pale skin, fire red heads, have the freckles, like, that whole...
Yeah. Which, if we're, again, thinking about, like, historical context, like, real-world historical context, the Irish people,
absolutely.
when they came to America, and also in England, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, yeah.
There's also, just a little more context with that, Italians were also... So the concept...
I'm aware. Yep.
So white supremacy has grown significantly. So Irish people and Italian people were not considered white for...
They were considered people of color.
For a very long time, which is why a lot of Italians do not consider themselves white now.
Yeah.
I'd say most of them are. Because the definition of whiteness has expanded to include...
Yes.
Italians.
No, I agree.
Like, traditional looking.
I agree, but I also get where they're coming from.
No, I get it.
Their culture, like, not American Italian culture, because that's its own thing.
Well, so that's the...
But, like,
So I think if you're from Italy and you have the, like, more deeper olive skin, that's fair. If you look like a white person...
You're getting that privilege.
You have the white privilege.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, because I've had this argument with Italian people. They're like, we're not, and I'm like, for a long time you weren't, but that's also like saying an Irish person is not white.
Right. Like
Irish people are considered white.
You have the privilege that is associated
Correct.
with
But
it.
there are some people, like certain Greek people are definitely very much people of color.
Yeah.
And look like people of color. So I'm not saying that every European is, but like, most Italians look pretty white.
They do. It's like a lot of Spanish people also look very white.
Correct.
But there's also a lot of Spanish people with deeper colored skin.
Correct. It
varies.
Ethnocentricity is very interesting in terms of like what paleness level is considered white.
Is. I will say this too. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
My mom's family is Brahmin. She is, for an Indian person, extremely fair-skinned. She's very light-skinned. Her mom, also very light-skinned. My grandfather was almost white, honestly.
Really? Oh.
And there's people on both my mom and dad's side of the family who are very fair-skinned and have, like, green eyes. And it's because they're Aryan.
Yeah.
And, like, when we talk about the Aryan race, we mostly just think Hitler.
Yeah.
However, the Aryans in an Indian context, the Aryans were part of I think it was like the Alexandrian Empire.
Which I think they were considered people of color.
Maybe Hellenistic. I'm not great with history, but like it was that where like the empire spanned from Europe all the way down through Asia, all the way down into India.
Yes, it's that Eastern European Turkey in that realm.
And those were the Aryan people. So my mom is Aryan, and she is very light skinned. And in a historical and racial context, the Brahmins viewed themselves as like highly intelligent and very well studied and all of that stuff, and are racist towards Indian people of color.
Correct.
The native Indian people who are much darker skinned. It's a whole thing. Like you find this in every part of the world, in every part of history.
Racism is, I will say, racism is not necessarily exclusive to white people. I think we were just the best at utilizing it.
Yeah, sure.
And weaponizing it.
Yeah.
Like, because that's the concept that I think white people use a lot. Like, we're not the only ones that are racist.
Yeah.
Correct. We are the most efficient with it.
Hey!
Historically. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but they definitely were the most efficient and the best at weaponizing it.
You're so good at it.
If there's one thing that white people are good at, it's weaponizing racism.
Yes!
Racism.
Snaps.
But like truly.
No.
Because I've heard this concept often. Because again, I also, and maybe this is some of where like my perspective came from. So I'm from Oklahoma. Oklahoma is heavily Native American.
Yeah.
Heavily.
Yeah.
Not by choice. Definitely by force.
Yeah.
Woo! No, like truly.
Sorry, trying to add humor.
Woo, come on. No, so I grew up in a very, like, I went regularly, like, my school field trips often were to powwows. Like, legitimately, we were going to powwows.
Wild.
And dances and things. And I was actually talking to Allie about this recently. And, like, how I miss... We have a friend, Allie. Actually, she's been on the channel before.
She has been.
Allie, we love you.
We love you so much.
But talking about, like, she wanted to go to powwows. And I'm like, I honestly miss...
Yeah.
And, like... different cultures, but like the culture, the Indian culture that I grew up around. Native American, not Indian, sorry.
It's okay.
I've heard both, but Native American.
Oh my god.
Culture that I grew up around. And
yeah.
now I know. I've heard a lot of, I'm the feather, not the duck. I've heard all of that.
Oh.
Don't get me started on that.
Okay, I do have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
With the Native American people that you have encountered,
yes,
do they prefer to be called Indian or Native American?
Typically they prefer to be called by their tribe.
Amazing.
But you can't, well, I mean, sometimes I can kind of tell just because I grew up around a lot of people. So I grew up at kind of an intersection between the Creek Nation and the Cherokee Nation. So most people that I was around were either Creek or Cherokee, but there is I don't like this term, but this is the term that was assigned. So there's the 5 civilized tribes. That is literally what they're called. So there's Creek, Seminole, Cherokee, Chickasaw, and there was always one that I miss. Osage? I think it's Osage. Okay. I think it's the 5th one. I did not grow up as much around those, but the main ones that I grew up around were Creek and Cherokee. Cherokee is by far the largest. Everyone and their grandma is related to a Cherokee princess. You're not. That is very much, fun fact, a colonial southern thing. Oh. I'm not kidding. The amount of people that have been like, I'm like, oh, I'm from Oklahoma. They go, I'm Cherokee. I'm like, are you? Because I don't think you are. Because I also don't claim to be Native. There's probably likely some sort of Native blood in my system somewhere. We don't really know. Oh, is that the garage or is that the lightning?
Okay, I think that was the garage.
Yeah, I think that was the garage.
I was like, that was a very long thunder.
But yeah, so I would say most Native peoples prefer to be referred to by their tribal name because I don't think they like to be referred to as a large swell.
As a large, and it's the African thing.
Well, so someone who was...
It's the African thing.
Correct. If someone is an Apache Indian or an Arapaho Indian, they're not going to relate to a Creek or Cherokee Indian. Honestly, even Creek and Cherokee people don't really relate to each other. They're more similar because they're Plains Indians. Sure. Kind of. I mean, they were forced on the plains. But, so... Anyhow. But I would say, maybe Native persons is considered respectful or Native Americans because they are native to the U.S.
Right. They are American. They are the Americans.
We are living on stolen land.
Yes.
All of us. Yeah. If you are not a Native descendant person,
this is
we are on stolen land.
So, I mean, yeah.
There's actually some hats that say "living on stolen land" that I really want.
I would love
that
to
are
have one.
Native artists that I adore.
We should get that.
Anyhow, clearly we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
And intersectional. But I think this episode is very much an introduction. Into the concept of racism. Not that anyone is shocked by this, but what we define as racism, what this looks like from your
different perspectives.
Yeah, I'm gonna say your perspective.
Okay.
I have siblings that are people of color, so I've definitely experienced it by proxy.
Yeah.
One of my siblings is very black. Yeah. And definitely, and my other sibling is very Asian.
Yeah.
And the experiences that I have with both of them when it's just us is vastly different. And it's really interesting to see those intricacies and differences.
And I do think that you should talk about it. I do think that that's going to be really valuable and really helpful.
But I will be talking about it as someone who is next to it, not experiencing it. And because I know that.
And I also think, for me, and I'll say this again, the racism that I've experienced,
very different.
For myself, not been harmful personally. I'm sure yes, it is still harmful in the larger context, but it's very different. It is not the same.
Yes.
So we're going to try our best.
We are also just two people sharing the experiences that we've had and our understanding of this, and I'm fully aware that other people, depending on your race, have experienced different things. If you want to talk about it, please, we would love to engage.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. We would love to hear, we would love to engage, we would love to talk about it.
We would.
Yeah, also, we have been relatively somewhat political. We're diving in.
We're diving in!
I don't think it's a surprise, and I'm not bashful about this at all. No. And I have not been in my life, but I would say maybe I have been more on the internet, so we're going to get real into it.
We are. Let's just bring it back to the feminist aspect of this really quick. So a couple of interesting points that I think that we should hold space for. Let's hold some space.
We're holding space.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah, come on.
Is the Mgistry, the high mages, all of them, they every 10 years allow a female to take the high mage exam.
Once every 10?
Once every 10 years. So it's Sciona's time. She has a lot riding on her. And she does want it for her personal glory, but she also wants to.
She genuinely wants it.
She wants it because the way that she sees it is like, if someone needs to do it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm the one that can.
And I'm the one that can.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate. Like, I do think that she's being very realistic about that, because she is incredibly talented. She's incredibly intelligent. You know, it is her. She is the one who's going to do it.
She's not just intelligent for a woman. She is intelligent for anyone.
For anyone.
Yeah.
And the way that people treat her is, I mean, she is operating within the context of her patriarchal society very well, I will say. Like, she handles it really well. Yeah.
Like, I think that's also something to keep in mind with this book, is sorry.
It's the beer.
It is. That was how so to keep in mind, that is how she was raised. Because I think a lot of the time, I don't know, there's like this vilification of the South. And like, I will critique it till the cows come home, Lord knows. I'm gonna sound southern, we're gonna jump in there.
It's all good.
But like, there are some beautiful parts of it that I think some of the elements of it are, they don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know. She doesn't know. That was the society and culture that she's been raised in. And she is navigating it beautifully.
She's navigating it so well.
Because she knows it.
Yeah. She's like, I am ready for whatever they throw at me. When they give her the hard questions, she does have this moment where she's like, none of those other minis, you know.
And she should.
But she does it. Yeah, you know? She's like, I can do this, no problem.
Yeah, she doesn't tell them, no, I can't do it. She's like, I will do it. The only time that she argues is when she knows that she can and they're not giving her the opportunity.
Correct, yeah. So I do think, like, just holding that in your mind as you're reading this, like, watch how it develops, watch how she changes her perspective based on what's happening around her. It's really interesting. It's done so well.
And also, I watch her reactions.
Yes.
Because her reactions to it, I think, are very interesting and telling and very realistic.
Yes. I agree.
This book is very realistic.
It's very real.
For something that is a world that is not ours, it very much is ours.
It very much is. Yeah. I do think so. We're probably at time now.
Yeah, we've talked a lot.
Next time, I really, 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 really want to talk about the magic.
Yeah. Yes.
The magic is so good. I think
we get more into the magic in the next chunk.
Like, so much more. We just, like, the beginning, we're trying to treat this book seriously because it deals with so many really serious topics.
Serious and with care and with the groundwork of what we're going into.
Yeah.
So we don't have to keep explaining this in the next episode.
Correct.
Yes.
So with that, I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah, come on.
All right. Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of season 4.
We clearly loved it.
We clearly loved it. We've been talking for a really long time. It's been great.
This book is truly one of my favorites I've read in the last couple of years. Like, this was a book that got me out of, like, a slump. It sent me into a slump.
Sure.
It was so good it sent me into one. But,
yeah. After reading this, I was like, what do I do with myself?
I had to read a really fluffy book.
Yeah.
I reread an Allie Hazelwood book after this, actually, because I needed something to just, like, cleanse.
I don't even remember what I read after this.
And settle. Well, we were reading multiple books when you were reading this book, so you didn't really have a choice to have a palate cleanser. You just had to keep going.
I just had to keep going.
So, the plight of a book reader and a podcaster.
Yep.
So
yeah. Happy 4th season, and we will see you next week with chapters 4 through 6.
Bye.
Bye.